Hello, my loves, and welcome to Fly Nubian Money. I am Lala, international real estate agent, and today we're talking about something that doesn't get enough attention. How can we better support the men in our lives? And this is all inspired by Tyrese Gibson's recent interview with the Breakfast Club. We're going to explore the emotional struggles that men face. He talks about how men cry and hurt just like women, especially during rough times like miscarriages, divorces, and breakups. He also shares his perspective on valuing love and authenticity over material possessions. Today, I'm actually joined by my awesome co-queens, Moya, our tax professional, Dr. Alicia Watkins, our resident expert therapist, and Constant Carter, our wealth activist. Hi, ladies. I'm so glad to spend this hour with you. But also, ladies and gentlemen, if you're joining us, we also love to hear your comments as well, because we love to keep this conversation two-way. We're not talking at you, we're talking with you, and we want to hear what you have to say. But before we move on, I want us to actually see part one. We're going to break this video up into two parts because we want to really break it down. So let's look at the video and start the conversation.
And letting it go?
Yeah, because you've been holding it the whole interview.
Okay.
I've been watching you.
You asked me the question.
I did, but I mean, I'm getting
you should have never asked the question.
I love you,
if you didn't want to see.
I love you, brother. I love you. I love you.
How hard it's been to get through.
I love you. I love you, black man.
Okay, do you not cry?
Absolutely.
You might not bring it to the radio.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But this is what being grown is.
Thank you, brother.
I'm not doing this.
I need one. My makeup going to mess up.
Hear me.
My concealer is sitting today.
Hear me. Black men cry. When divorces happen, women aren't the only one that are devastated. When a miscarriage happens, women are not the only one that you should be checking on. When you can't put food on the table because your career goes up and then it goes down, stop calling, skipping over the man, and just checking on the woman. This is real shit out here. I'm gonna wipe my own tears.
Messing up my makeup, Tyrese.
I love you, sis. When you do things from the heart, it affects hearts. That's what beautiful pain is.
Wow, that is so powerful. And I think we have a lot to unpack here. So I would like to get our initial thoughts on that. And I would love to start with you, Constance. You have boys. I have a boy. I would love to hear what your thoughts are. How does this video make you feel? And how do you relate to it with having sons?
I think it's so powerful when a man can be vulnerable in that way. And the thing about it is people are like, oh yeah, that's Tyrese. He always having meltdowns. He always crying. This is par for the Tyrese course. But I think that it shows an insurmountable amount of strength for a man, especially a black man, to get on and be vulnerable in this society, like in this world, in our culture. So I think it shows his strength, to be honest with you.
I do too. So I'm going to bounce it to you, Moya. What are your initial thoughts, and what kind of emotions does this bring up in you as well?
Well, it definitely brings up emotions of sadness and pain, because I definitely feel Tyrese, because he definitely is exuding that pain. I do believe, though, that it does appear as if Tyrese has these moments more consistently.
I think I agree with you. We hear it all the time in the news with him. And a lot of people, call him the crybaby. There's a lot of memes of him going around, that have him showing his emotions. But I have to also say that I'm also a very emotional woman. And I like to see emotional responses out of other people as well. When they're hurting, I like to know that they're hurting. And I think that has a lot to do with his makeup too, that at least he's a little more sensitive than what most men expect other men to be. Dr. Alicia, do you think I'm off on that? And what are your initial thoughts on seeing it? You are an expert therapist, and I know you got some beautiful things to say.
Well, no, he makes a really good point, because we've seen him several times online, like really crying about a really terrible thing that's happened to him. I think with Fast and Furious, the debacle. There was some scandal around that. He's got 2 divorces. And so he's very transparent in his emotions. And where appropriate, I think the problem is that for the audience, it's a little uncomfortable for people to see that. Kudos to Charlemagne the God for getting up and actually giving him a hug. I think that's great to see men do that. So he's a champion for men's emotions. And I think he has a point that society often prioritizes women's emotions during very challenging moments. And I think sometimes what men are feeling sometimes goes unnoticed. And maybe this can help shift some of the narrative that we need to create spaces where men can freely express how they feel without being afraid of being judged.
I agree with that. So many times growing up, I would see, I didn't have a brother in the household with me, but I would see other people raising their sons. And if they were 2 or 3, they would cry if they fell or something. And you would see people say, buck up, be a man. They're 3. And I think that at that point is where they start getting their foundation for saying, I cannot show these emotions, that emotions are bad. It's not a manly thing. I think we have to change that narrative. I do believe it's a thin line. People know I'm always like, ooh, I'm a woo-woo Pisces, and I can't help it because I am.
Me
but
too.
I just am. But so seeing him cry makes me feel so much sadness for him in that aspect, but I'm also very proud of him for please express it and show that you can express it. We have some really great comments, but before we go to those, I want to bring up a couple of our graphics so for people who may not know who Tyrese is, because he's very well known in the Black community, but let's look at his history. In 1994, he was 16 years old when he was singing for Coca-Cola, and that is what led him to have more work. He was also modeling, and so he was a spokesperson for Guess and Tommy Hilfiger and other national brands. And then his singing career in 1998 picked up, and he was signed to RCA, and he released his debut album. And I think we all know something off of his album. I mean, I believe he's a very emotional singer. Now, hold up. I'm going to say this, y'all. That emotion also comes over in his music. So you see, you want to hear it in the music, but you don't want to hear him talk about it. That's not something we're going to tackle about. And in 2003, his movie career picked up. So after releasing several albums, his most famous role that everybody knows is Baby Boy. And if you haven't seen that, Lord, just turn on BET right now because they play it 24/7. Then the very, very popular Fast and Furious series, and Four Brothers, which is also an excellent movie, and Transformers, which I haven't seen that one. But for the most part, he's had a pretty successful career with movies. So that is who Tyrese is. Now, a couple of our audience members here have said some things, and I would like to address them. I think they're kind of all over the board, and they kind of show a difference in some of the emotion that we actually see with him. Delbert said, an old man told me to talk to him a long time ago. He said, a man ain't a real man if he can't shed a tear. That's a very interesting thought, because we already just talked about how we usually tell 3-year-old boys they can't even cry. But I think it also shows that we're human too. Double A says, I'm tired of everyone jumping on Tyrese. You just never know what someone is going through. And then Carolyn says, that dude is unstable in all his ways. Carolyn, I'm going to need you. You know what we don't do in this show? We don't just throw a statement out there. I want to hear your thought on why you think he's so unstable. Okay, put it in there. Winston Lee says, you cannot put all men in the category with Tyrese, especially since he's been compromised. Winston, same go for you. What's he been compromised as, my friend? Please let us know. Let us in what your thoughts are. Dana says he does have these moments consistently, but what he said this time is absolutely true. Wow. I think that is a good point. Constance, when it comes to your boys, have you talked to them about being emotional and being okay with the let emotions out when they need to let them out? I think we do teach our boys in a certain way, at least I did, that there is a time and a place, but if you really feel like you have those emotions, it's okay to express them. How do you feel about this?
I thank God for the internet, because like TikTok talks about emotional intelligence a lot. And so my kids are very self-aware about emotional intelligence. I wish I had it right here, but my son has a shadow journal, right? So he's writing his feelings. My daughter is very into self-awareness, but my sons too. I could say my two older sons, but the younger one, I'm still trying to crack the nut on him and I'm trying to find where I could kind of get an in. He's upstairs. But the other two, they're very self-aware, and they talk about emotional intelligence. They talk about tapping inside a lot. And I think it's so amazing, but I think it's something that they're learning on the internet. And again, I've always been very intentional about having conversations about their feelings. One of the things I did when they were young is, how do you feel about each other, so that they understood that each other loved each other. What do brothers do? Love each. I even do that now. They get mad at me when they were little. I used to be like, what do brothers do? They'd be like, love each other. Now when I do that, what do brothers do? They'd be like, they say it. So we have those conversations about your emotions. And they told me one day, my oldest son, I was saying, I really feel bad. I have these moments about their father and feeling bad, because I just feel like empathetically, I feel bad for him because of some of the thoughts that he thinks. And my dad, he's like, my dad is not emotional intelligent. And Mom, basically, you're not emotional intelligent because you feel sorry for the man. I'm like, well, damn, okay. So they are very in tune with being emotionally intelligent. And I think that's good. And I think maybe it might be par for the course of where they are, what they're seeing, but it's good that they are tapping inside. I do believe that.
I think that's just healthy. We're supposed to be balanced. Everybody talks about aligning your chakras and getting in your right space. I think it's just healthy. And I think it's wrong that most people want to shun people for having these emotions, because we all have them. We all know we have them. There's not one person I don't know that haven't been through all of these feelings and emotions. So why should we separate the fact that it's girls and boys, women and men, and how can we change this in our dynamic? If you are just now joining us, ladies and gentlemen, you are watching Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we discuss a lot of different things. We talk about everyday life. We talk about how we can improve our communities. We give you solutions, and we like to talk to you too. So listen, if you don't want to miss a show, all you have to do is text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948, and you'll get a notification about us going live every day. But I'm also extremely proud to say that we are on Spotify. So if you want to go back and listen to some of us there, if you can't watch us, you surely can take us on the road with some coffee and some tea and talk back to us there too. We'll hear you. And all you have to do is go over there and look for our name, Fly Nubian Money, and put that in and give us a 5-star rating. It means the world to us. Now, I want to dig back into this because I really think this is a very important topic for our communities. Dr. Alicia, a lot of the times, like we're seeing in some of our comments, men expressing their emotions publicly can be met with ridicule. So what are your thoughts on this, and how can we create a space where men feel safe to express their vulnerabilities?
Yeah, I mean, there is a stigma. I really love the comments that people are making in the chat, but there really is a stigma around men becoming vulnerable and it being uncomfortable for people on the receiving end to accept that and to absorb that and to validate male experiences. And so many times, and sometimes it comes from other men. Other men can ridicule. I remember Tyrese getting ridiculed for crying online. It was just like, man up. I remember a lot of men when Simone Biles said, my mental health is not where it needs to be. I have got to get out of this Olympics. There were so many men on the internet who was really like, what are you doing? That's not the attitude of a champion. So I really am seeing instances where they stigmatize mental health, and male mental health also has been stigmatized. I really think that we need to promote awareness that to encourage open conversation, emotional challenges, in a sense, in a place where we validate men and their experiences. Now, in my office, I know I get a lot of male clients, and they can cry and they feel safe where they can do that. But when our session is over, they have to go out in this world that's not so accepting of them, especially Black men. There's not so accepting of them showing their emotions. And but at least they can have a space where they can go and be validated. And they want this from their women. Women, they want you to be comfortable with them opening up. They desire to open up. I get a lot of men who want to be in a healthy relationship where they have a woman with them, where they can feel like they can just let it all out in the way where they feel safe to do so.
I think that's the part that we're missing the most. I don't know about you ladies, but I love to see when men say, all right, I'm going out with my men today. And they're having their like meeting, their cigar meetings, their, even their prayer groups. I'm like, go do it, because I feel like you also need a space and a place to feel safe with your brothers and to be able to discuss things that you may not discuss with a woman. Because let's face it, sometimes men have to help men, women have to help women, because we understand the struggle as the genders. So Moya, when you're in a relationship, I'm not sure if you're in a relationship now, or I know that you're divorced. So is it something that you look for in a man to be able to show emotion? And do you see this as a weakness or actually a strength?
Oh, I definitely see it as a strength, but I need to know the timing of it. So, for example, in the clip, the woman host says, it looks like you've been holding something back this whole time, Tyrese. What's going on? So she sees that. And so I think in that moment, it makes me think, well, did he have these emotions before he came in? Did something trigger it? Like, what happened to bring them up? Like, I know he later goes on and he talks about his mom. Like, in those moments, I definitely want to see it. I definitely, when you're talking about something very important, but something out of thin air, it makes me think. Like, it goes back to what Dr. Alicia was saying is, what do we need to do for mental health? That's different than someone just releasing their emotions and crying, I think, because, a lot of things can trigger the crying part.
Yes, I believe so. Because not only for sadness, guys, but you make me mad enough and I cry, you better get out the way. That's danger, Will Robinson, danger. I'm done. No, serious. You just get so worked up. That's just a response for me. I want to discuss his relationships. He has been married twice before, and he has daughters as well. So he actually was married to two different women, but I do believe that both of them ended up getting spousal support as well as child support. And he was married to Samantha for about 4 years, not quite 4 years, but that's fairly short. I'm not sure how long he was married to his first wife, but I do know that he has come on and discussed his money because of how much he has to pay out for child support. And here's a photo of him with one of his daughters, and he is definitely was fighting to spend time with his daughter. That's where most of the crying memes came from, everybody, when he came out and was talking about, please don't take my baby. And he was crying about, he wants to see his child. To me, I think that's a super strength. You want to see your baby. Please don't take my baby away from me. I think that was a normal response. Dr. Alicia, do you think that women can weaponize the fact that you are dealing with someone who has a lot of emotion outside of the celebrity and making you money? Because he did make some very successful movies. But do you think that their emotions can be weaponized when it comes to separation or divorce?
You mean the emotions of men are weaponized, or the emotions
the
of
women can weaponize the men's emotions when they're.
Let me just tell you, I think going through a divorce can make a normal person crazy. So let's just do that. Let's just put that to the side, because, as a therapist, I've seen people do really off the mark behaviors and actions, and they say things they normally wouldn't say. Just the whole thing of going through a divorce, you have to just give yourself kind of grace and compassion for all of the crazy things that people do when going through those experiences. So I don't know. I can't get into the motives of his ex-wives and why they would prevent him from seeing his child. We got one side of the story. So we have to also keep in mind that there's two sides of the story, because there have been many times where I get one side of the story and I'm thinking one way, and then I get the other partner in and I start realizing, oh, okay, there's two sides to this story, and who cares about what really happens? Let's just figure out our perspectives and how we feel like we were treated in these situations. So, I think that as a public, when one person goes online and they just spill it all and they say all these things about their partner, you have to also keep in mind there's another person on the other end of that who have experienced something as well. So I don't think we can say that, Tyrese is totally innocent in some of these things. We didn't hear from the other person. So we should refrain from just saying, oh, they weaponizing. And I think that's the issue. I think there's so many men who go through so much pain and they don't have a chance to really channel that pain and work through their pain. And they go online and they sync up with these men groups that just demonizes women, no accountability on their behavior. They just put it off on westernized women and modern women. And it gets into this angry sort of hateful arena that I do not ascribe to. I do not support. I think it's good that men get together and talk about these things, but the solution is not the whole host of women. There's something wrong with women or Black women or westernized women. No. I've seen 90 Day Fiance. It's universal. The grass is not greener. You still have to deal with yourself.
I think that's a good point. And my grandmother always used to say, there's his side, her side, and the truth. And you have to always take that with a grain of salt. I think we all have to. I think we hear a lot more about celebrities and we always get the one side. And then everybody, what I call keyboard warriors, decide that they want to come in and chime in. We don't always know the full story. So we better be very careful about quick to judging, because you never know when people's judging you too. All right. So you got skeletons in your closet. I just think that it's honorable for him to at least share some of the things that goes on in his life. And Crystal, our one of our viewers, says it takes a lot for a grown man to come before everybody and show his emotions. Let everybody know he don't give a damn about what everybody else is thinking. He's being 100% real. And then infamous Hicks says, pressure busts pipes. We only human despite how masculine you are. I think that's very interesting. And then Curtis actually said, girl, he got money and is successful. I'm not really sure that matters. It doesn't matter. Strip it all away. We're all still human. Constance, what do you think about that comment? Like, so what if he's got money and he's successful? Does that make a difference? Can't hear you.
I think people put so much stock into having money and thinking money is what is going to make you happy. Look at Robin Williams. Had everything, right? We thought that he was so happy because he had so much material, but he ended up killing himself. Money is not the equalizer. Now, it's better to have money than not to have money, but if you are an unhappy person, we all have emotions. Money it's not going to heal that. So that question or that comment is dumb.
Well, I'd love to hear some of what our viewers are thinking about that as well. Do you think that money has anything to do with this or in his status? Because guys, we're hearing more and more and more and more and more every day about how all these stars are not making what you think they're making. Okay. They're getting pennies for what they're doing, and they don't have residuals. I think that's a misconception of what's going on in Hollywood, especially. So we have to be careful about that.
Fame don't equal money. I know a lot of famous people, and especially during the pandemic, I know a lot of artists and entertainers and musicians that they had huge fame, they have a huge amount of followers, but when the pandemic hit, they were broke because they got their money from being out on tour. And so you don't realize, I got people calling me right now, yo, Constance, what do I need to do to grow my money and not blow my money? And these are people that you think have millions and millions of dollars. So just because you're famous, it certainly doesn't mean that you have the fortune.
Exactly. And speaking of money, We have a wonderful website for you. All you have to is go to our website, flynubianmoney.com. We have a lot of free resources, a lot of free courses for you to help you get your money right and your money tight. You don't want to be without in case something happens. Like you pointed out, Constance, during, my husband is a musician. He teaches music. That's most of our friends, 99% are musicians. And everyone was scrambling because the tours were gone. They had to figure out what they were going to do about bringing money. A lot of them turned to the internet and did, subscribe and things of that nature. But that does not bring in a lot of money that people think that it brings in. So if you're just now tuning in, we are actually discussing something very important. We are talking about emotions of men and are they being addressed properly in our communities? And we are here. We're Fly Nubian Money here every day, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We would love to hear your comments on that. We are actually talking about Tyrese. Most people know him from a lot of the memes, but he's also have a lot of movies and he's a singer. What they call it? Triple threat, y'all. Okay, so he's got the skills, but he was on the Breakfast Club and he was talking to Charlamagne about emotions and even Charlamagne hugged him, which I don't care for Charlamagne, but you know what? I give him credit for at least getting up and giving him a hug. Now, we addressed the first part of that conversation and interview. Let's move on to the second part because I honestly think that the second part even says more. So let's check that out.
Y'all might outsell me the first week. I made a fucking classic. Some of the most legendary movies in the world didn't do well in the box office. Baby Boy bombed. Do your research. Is it a classic?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is Baby Boy a classic?
Hell yeah.
People didn't even know who the fuck I was as an actor when that movie came out.
Baby Boy, the only reason BET still got a network going.
Praise God. If the movie bombed in the box office, why is it the only movie that they still playing on BET every day? Don't confuse data and numbers and popularity with the reality of what affects hearts. I'm a grown-ass man, and I'm going to tell y'all something about 1992, as well as The Masked Singer when I did that show. Praise God for Nick Cannon. Shout out to him. I was really a masked singer. I needed that mask so fucking bad.
Wow.
I needed that money from that show so bad. I didn't have it in me to go stand on that fucking stage and sing, and praise God I had a mask on, because while I was on stage singing, if they had seen my face under that mask.
Right.
Listen, if it all ends for me tomorrow, I never sold you on fake. None of this jewelry on my arm is real. Don't love me because of no fucking diamonds. Take all this shit. This bracelet right here look real as a motherfucker. This shit was $23 on Amazon.
You said look real.
Nothing. Hear me out.
I didn't think it looked real.
It don't look fake, right? If you out here getting fake vagina over your fake jewelry, reality is reality. This shit is corny. It's all fake. It's all superficial. It doesn't mean anything.
Ooh,
You know what?
Unpacking that.
Right though, now that I see that again, she was so shady. She's like, "You think that look real? That doesn't look real." I didn't see that at first. She was saying, and Charlamagne was over there laughing. He was like, "It looked real, right?" She was like, "Mm-mm."
That's so funny because women have eagle eyes, but that actually brings me to a really good question. And I'm going to throw this one to you, Moya. So he mentioned that he wanted to be loved for who he is, not for what he has. So how can we cultivate these relationships that are based on mutual respect and emotional support rather than superficial views and what you got and fake diamond rings and $23 Amazon? Look, I am quick. Yeah. to go for a 23 Amazon bracelet. I'm not trying to wear all them diamonds. That'll get you killed. So I want to know what your thoughts on that is.
I think it depends upon what you lead with. Like, so if you led with, I'm flashy, I got this, I got that, because I live in LA, so I know stories of Tyrese. Tyrese used to ride around in his Bentley, his cream Bentley. Like, there are things that he used to do. So if this is what you lead with, then this is what you're presenting. Now, if you always presented yourself as like, this is the guy, I don't care about material items, I don't care about these things, then that's one part of it. I don't know if that's the case with Tyrese. I believe Tyrese very much so was into this life, and now all of a sudden it sounds like he doesn't have what he at one point had, and so of course it doesn't matter, right? Because you ain't even got it anymore to even show for it if you even wanted to get the diamond bracelet. So
maybe it's growth though. Maybe it's growth. Maybe it's when you go through so many ups and downs through life, like you kind of grow out of that. I have friends who have a lot of money and they're like, I didn't have everything. I didn't have the cars. I've had everything. I just want peace at this point. Who gives a damn about the material? And I think sometimes people get there.
I'm curious if you really wanted peace, but you're on Breakfast Club crying for like the third or fourth time.
You ain't got no sympathy for the man, do you?
Me personally, I just don't like the show, period. But hey, I think Charlamagne brings out crazy things in most people there with his own views. But I wonder, at some point, do men feel like after that ridicule, because he gets a lot of ridicule for this, do you have to examine yourself to pull back sometimes? I do want to address a wonderful comment by James McLaren. And he's saying, why doesn't anyone talk about what it does to a person to find the person they love wants the money more than them, or their well-being, or their healing of their relationship? This is a very good question, and I'm going to ask you, Dr. Alicia, what do you think about that comment?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good comment. And I think what we're seeing from Tyrese in that clip, let's just take it at face value. He's prioritizing emotional connections over material possessions. And I mean, I think that makes sense. He's emphasizing love, authenticity, emotional intimacy, and making that as a foundation to make meaningful bonds and relationships with people. And that can transcend some financial and material success. So I think it really is essential. Let's remind men it's okay to express their vulnerabilities and their emotions and not face ridicule for doing so, but to also say, I'm afraid, of I want to be able to provide financially, and I'm afraid that you won't love me anymore if I can't do that. It's my manhood is so centered around some of these tangible things. I'm providing for my family and I'm doing all of these things for other people. But I think a lot of men really just want to hug and to be shown that they are appreciated and loved for who and what they are. And, it's disheartening for men to just acknowledge that. And for a lot of us to say, it's okay. We are a team. We're together. Our money, my money is your money as well. That's all, I got your back. Men want to know, are you going to be there for me when things are down? Men want to know that because they don't want to be treated like an ATM machine, and they want to be loved for who and what they are. So that's a very acute comment made in the chat. Yes.
I think so too. And you mentioned the connection. Well, ain't nothing like when I just say I just need a hug with my husband, and I know I could feel in my soul when my husband wraps his arms around me. I could care less about the money part of it as long as we got each other, and that emotional connection is extremely, extremely important to me. So how important is it for us to prioritize emotional connections over financial or material success in relationships? And I'm throwing that question to you, Constance.
I think when the foundation has to be love. We talked yesterday just about, marrying for money. Because there are people who do that. And it's like, no, I want that core cellular level connection with somebody. But I can tell you, when you talk about, people being so caught up in the money piece, and I can say for me, like what the biggest fight for me when I got a divorce was about money. And the thing that still comes up now is about money. And it's like, I look at it because I feel like I'm Tyrese in that sense, right? It's like, was everything always about money? Maybe it wasn't always, but as we started, getting a little money, then it became about money. And is that why you stayed for so long? Because it was about money? Because everything boils down to money, material, assets. And I'm just like, damn, was I blind? So I know how he feels. I know how you feel when you're like, damn, well, what were you really here for? Were you really here because you really truly loved me? Or were you here because of what you love, what I can do for you? And that's very disheartening, especially when you love somebody from your core and you're thinking that they're there for a certain reason. And it turns out, when it all comes out in a wash, they're really not. Because if that's the only thing that comes up, it ain't nothing like, oh, you hurt my feelings. Oh, you did this. I ain't got no more money. I'm struggling over here. You took all the money. You did this with the money. Everything is about money. That sucks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But then we also see the flip side of sometimes women, we see a lot of the videos where they get angry when a man takes them to Cheesecake Factory. It's kind of a contradiction. Me personally, I love Cheesecake Factory. I love McDonald's if we had to go to McDonald's, as long as I was spending the time with
Right.
that partner, right? That makes a big difference.
Yeah.
I want to address a couple of comments from Greg Thomas. I really love what he's saying.
Yeah.
He said, men like Tyrese should not have to hide what he has in order to attract women that will love him just because. Tyrese should look for a more traditional woman. Now, I find that interesting because we kind of got back to his relationships, but I'm not so sure that that is the only thing he's talking about. You notice he talked about not only he needed the masked singer for money, yes, but what I don't understand the tie for that one in this situation. He basically is talking about working hard as a man and in some points feeling like he's a failure at a man because he didn't have enough or he didn't do enough. And he needed that mask on the Masked Singer because listen, guys, he felt like he was the Masked Singer. It wasn't that he was playing a role. He was a masked singer. So why do we allow our young boys to feel like they need to be masked when it comes to their emotions? And I'm throwing that to you, Moya.
So one of the things that I find really interesting about Tyrese, so Tyrese grew up in Watts. And so that's one of the poorer neighborhoods of Los Angeles. And he grew up in the 90s, early 90s. And so that's when the crack epidemic really came and hit our communities a lot. And so I don't know anything about his family background, but just seeing all of that and going back to what Infamous Hicks said in terms of the pressure that men feel. And then at 16, he hits the scene and he's off running. So at what point in time does he have to really unpack that? It's almost as if he has to put on a mask because he's in this new environment that he knows nothing about to just fit in, to go along. So at what point does he have to really get an understanding of who he is and how he can show up in this new environment so he can be successful?
I like that. And yes, I'm very familiar with his background. And let me tell you, it's not easy to get out of those areas in LA. They're one of the roughest known. I mean, I've sold a lot in Watts, I've sold a lot in Compton. They're not what they used to be, but there is a lot of fight to get out of there and to better yourself. And let's face it, it's very hard to do that. And the percentages are low. So the fact that he did, yes, and during the time that he came up to, that was a different time than what it is today. I also want to address Greg Thomas, who said, it's great to see women talking about men, but you should have at least one man that you're going to ask for his side. Well, guess what, Greg? We really did want a man to come on the panel. We just couldn't find anyone today. But here's your opportunity to join us. If you have something to say and you want to come on and join us, you are more than welcome. So all you have to do is to email us, okay? Email info@realvirtual.net. And I'm going to spell that for you. info@REELVIRTUAL.net. And let us know that you want to be a guest, because we are very open to that. And we would love to hear both sides. So you're welcome. And if you're just now joining us, you are watching Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as you can see, we tackle some pretty good topics, guys. I think that we would love to have you. And Dr. Vibe says he would love to come on. Hey, Dr. Vibe, go on and send that email. We would love to have you. So make sure that you lock us in by texting the word Queens, QUEENS, and text that to 87948 so that you don't miss an episode. Now, listen, I'm going to ask us to throw that email up again. You know why? Because we've had more than one man ask to come and join us. That excites me. And Big Mac, we waiting for you. Come on, brother. We can't wait for you to come on in here. So, ladies, I am loving this chat. Are you happy with how many comments we're getting from men? Do you feel like we're opening a dialogue with men to express themselves? Dr. Alicia, don't you think this is healthy?
This is healthy. And I'm sitting here listening to the comments about how Tyrese expresses it, like he's crying every 5 minutes, he's crying and wearing this mask. There really is nothing wrong with wearing a mask. Okay, I'm at work right now. I'm a college professor. This is my office, right? So I'm talking to students, giving them orientation. That's the most appropriate time for me to put on my professor mask. Okay. And when I'm in therapy, and I'm talking to clients, I have a, therapist mask. When I'm dealing with my kids, I have a mom mask. When I'm dealing with my husband, I have a wife mask. Then it's okay, because each one of those masks that I adhere to is connected to the real Alicia. That is authentically me. So every mask, so to speak, that I wear, it's me. I'm not covering up anything, but it would be inappropriate for me to have my professor mask on and then treat everybody like they're children, right? These are grown adults. So I just want to say, we all have different aspects of ourselves. It's not appropriate for me to treat my husband like a client or treat a client like a friend of mine, so we have different hats. We'll just say hats that we wear, and we need to understand in those situations what's appropriate for that situation, and so maybe Tyrese does need therapy. He needs to have an appropriate channel from which to kind of like talk about how he's feeling emotionally, and it could be validated and received, and it could be a therapeutic experience. I'm not certain if going on a Breakfast Club is the right venue for him to sit there and cry about things, and maybe there's a way for him to talk about it without actually crying. Maybe he can say, you know what? I went through a very painful divorce. It was very hard for me. I was emotional during that time. It is something that I had to deal with in therapy. And he could talk about it in more of I'm on the Breakfast Club talking about it, as a celebrity addressing these issues, and not be a spectacle where he is just crying. There's a certain places and times of which you can be and draw out different aspects of yourself. If that makes sense. It makes sense to me, so it's a cry for help. He needs a support system. He needs,
like we all do. We all need a support system. Moya, you raised your hand. I want to hear what your comments are.
So I want to ask Dr. Alicia this, like, is it, when we say he needs therapy, is it therapy or is it a change of how he perceives himself in the world, right? It reminds me a lot of Amanda Seales, who when she's coming on, she's like, oh my God, everybody's attacking me. Look at everybody attacking me. And therefore she finds it in the world where everybody's attacking her. I feel like with Tyrese, there's like a victimhood here, and he cries, oh my God, I'm a victim. Look at what they did. Look at what she did. Look at what they did.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, would therapy even help that? Or do we need to have like a mindset shift?
Yeah, I think it would absolutely help him tremendously. I mean, it's if you know, if you have a really good support system in your life, you're not going to have a bad day, pick up your phone and go live and use that. So many celebrities do that, and I just look at that and I'm like, oh my God, I feel like they have this money and they have this fame, but I think that they are detached emotionally and they're probably very lonely. I can't imagine having a bunch of money, you're famous, and you have nobody around you that's really connected to you. I know I don't live in Los Angeles, but when I'm there, it's almost like, what can you do for me? How
All the
can
time.
I get
All the
something
time.
out of you and all of that? I don't know how people live like that, but I see that a lot, even in my sort of arena. I can tell when people are really interested in me, or if they're just trying to talk to me to get something out of me, or all of this. And so it's a tough situation to be in. And I don't know. Honestly, I don't even know how celebrities date. They have to date other celebrities. And even with that, how do you make it public? I mean, it's just so much that happens with celebrity and relationships. It is, I couldn't imagine my personal my personal life just being talked about and gossiped about all over the place. It's just a very difficult, and it's a small pool of people. I mean, there's not a lot of celebrities. Just think about, if you're a celebrity and you're dating, there's only so many people that you can actually date that's another celebrity. And is it compatible to you? And if you date like a regular person, is that person going to really understand what you're going through as a celebrity? So, I just feel sorry for that whole entire population of people.
Well, you
Yeah.
hit that right on the head, because one of the things I noticed, coming from a very small town, I come from Louisville, Kentucky, and then moving to Los Angeles, California, I had to learn to be very careful about who I let in my circle, because there was a lot of people who wanted to see what they could get from you, not get to know you. And I think that because Hollywood is Hollywood, that is a very common thing, especially there. But when I go home to Louisville, Kentucky, I don't get that from my peoples. They generally want to know, how are you doing? Let's go to coffee. Let's do that. You're in LA, it's like, let's go to coffee. Who you know? Can I get in a movie? That type of thing.
Can I add something? When I looked at
Sure.
the comment and somebody said he needs to man up. And of course, that's a very misogynistic thing to say, I think, about a man needing to man up and not being able to express their emotions. I think the fact that men aren't really there to see another man be vulnerable is extremely, it's sad. It's disheartening. I was watching, I try not to watch reality, but there was somebody sent me a link and they were like, "Ooh, yeah, ex-husband needed this," but it was on Love and Marriage Huntsville, and one of the guys was telling another guy about, you left your wife, she got another man. This is what just holding him accountable to what he did and how he showed up and how he didn't show up. And I think far too often you don't have men checking each other. You know what I'm saying? Like with women, I don't want a group of women who just agree with me about everything. I don't want them to tell me, oh, Constance, you did everything right. I got friends who've been there from the beginning to the end, and I want them to challenge me because I want to be better. And so, and I also want them to hold me accountable. And I also want them to be there to listen to me. I don't want people just to say, you're right. And just, and then there's no sense of balance for me, because now I'm doing things thinking that I'm right, and there's no checks and balances. So men need the support of other men, but men also need men to hold them accountable to a standard as men. And I think people aren't just doing that and being real these days. They're not holding each other accountable and saying it's okay to cry, but let's do some checks and balances. Let's look at where you are. And it's unfortunate for a lot of men that they don't have that type of support, I think.
Yeah,
I
and
agree.
I want to jump in. Holding men accountable, some men can't take it. Some men just totally have a meltdown when you say, "Hey, what's going on?" You said this, and it ended up being this, and then all of a sudden they're just like, "Oh my goodness, leave me alone," and start putting people down and calling people names and just getting on the defense, which is something that starts in childhood, right? There's some wounds there. of shame. So a lot of men who can't be accountable for their behaviors and the things that they say have a lot of shame underneath that. And it takes a special kind of person to be able to recognize that, okay, where's this coming from? How is this reminiscent of shame? This is shame. Just because you did something that you weren't supposed to do doesn't mean that you are a mistake. It's just what you've done, and you need to acknowledge it and apologize and make it right. And some men can't do that, and women too. So let's just not,
Let me just share like a personal story. Like I remember I overheard this one guy, and he was telling my ex, you should take her for everything she got. And my ex was like, I hope she fails, right? And then I seen the guy. He was one of the coaches. He's my son's coach, and I saw him at a basketball game, and he tried to come up to me and hug me. He didn't know I heard, and I was like, no, we're not doing that. No. And I said, oh, you don't even know I heard you. And he was like, what? And he was like, well, I was just trying to be his friend. And my thing is, be his friend by holding him accountable and telling him the truth. Not telling him what he wants to hear. Tell him the truth. And I think that's far too often what a lot of people do. And that's what I mean about men not hold, like when I saw that clip, and I was like, man, it would be so great if men had each other to say, this is where you failed. Because I have friends that tell me, look, I remember X, Y, and Z. And that's the reason why I can dig back in myself and say, yo, I could have stepped up in this way. I could have done this a little bit better. But, I think, when you talk about lack of accountability, I think it does stem back to childhood, or people thinking, oh, I'm not good enough, or they're saying that I failed in some way. And they believe it's a failure on their part when they're not, when they're being held accountable for something. But I tell you one thing I can't stand in life, because of that, because of in my whole, life, that lack of accountability. I do not allow my kids, people who work for me, to not be accountable for the things that they failed on. If you mess up, say, I'm sorry. I don't want no excuses. My bad, Constance. I'll do better. But I don't want to, and listen, I had some clients one time, and they, I have my assistant, her husband died. And so they went through the transaction, and her husband died. And so I had to kind of like do stuff that I don't normally do. And so my clients was like, Constance, we buy a house. They were my pastor. They bought a lot of houses from me. They recommended me to everybody. Right. And they were like, we normally love working with you, but this experience wasn't that great. Right. And I couldn't say, well, her husband died. And I ain't say none of that. I said, I'm sorry. I dropped the ball. Because at the end of the day, they don't give a damn about nobody's husband's dying. And I should have had other things in place to make sure that their experience was still what their experience was, right? That's accountability. Nobody gives a damn. If I'm having a baby and this has happened, and I got a client, nobody cares that I'm in labor. I should have put, this is my problem. That's accountability. So I think that for me, accountability is everything.
I agree. Woo, I agree. I do want to ask a personal question from everyone on the panel, and men. And the men who are watching, we're talking about men having accountability, going to groups, maybe having someone to hold them accountable. I want to hear if you have someone in your life. Where's your go-to when you're feeling like you need support? I would love, because you know what? If you put your comments in, maybe someone else will be like, oh, I didn't know that I could go to such and such and such. So share what you know about supporting other men. I think it's important that we share this information. Now, ladies, I'm going to ask you, this is going to be a quick question. Have you personally, with the fathers in your life, have you ever had fathers or uncles that around you that showed emotions such as tears around you? And and how did that make you feel? Start with you, Constance.
Yeah, my dad is my hero. I love my daddy. I'm a daddy's girl. I do remember my dad is he's very loving, I'll say. He's loving, but I do remember when I was about 4 years old, and my dad slept. I was at home with him. He used to sleep during the day. My mom, they were separated, and I climbed out the window and I went to my friend's house, and I was playing, and I heard him outside calling me for like an hour. He was calling me. He's calling me Niecy. And so I was over there. I was like, I got out of here. So I'm playing her little piano and stuff. And finally I decided to go home. And he saw me and he fell to his knees and he just cried. And I'll never forget that. He was so scared that he thought somebody kidnapped me and I was dead or whatever. But my dad definitely showed me That time, I don't think I've seen him cry before, but there's never been a time where I never thought that he didn't care about me.
See, and that stuck with you, didn't it?
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes. How about you, Dr. Alicia?
Yeah, I mean, I like Constance's answer, and when he needed to do it, when he needed to show emotion, it was appropriate for the situation, right? And I think that is like that's really cool. I hope that stays with you, and you know, it shows his unique connection that he had with you. And I had a very close relationship with my dad. We talked all the time and emailed each other every day and talked all the time. And we were like, I felt like I was his most important. I felt like I was his favorite person, honestly. I think I would tease my brother. I think he liked me more than him, you know, because we had a lot more in common. And even like my grandfather on my dad's side, he was a strong person in the community. I mean, like he helped everybody, even the people on my mom's side of the family. Everybody has great stories to tell about my grandpa. And he was a little gentle little Libra. He was a Libra man. So he showed love for my grandmother and he would do anything for her. And it was very obvious. And so it was just really nice to be able to witness that and to see that. And it had an effect not only just on, you know, my dad's side of the family, but my mom's side of the family. Like everybody that was around my grandparents was affected by just my grandfather's sometimes it was silent presence. He didn't speak a lot, but he was there, and he was there emotionally as well as tangibly. So yeah.
You had a positive experience too.
Yeah.
You know, now here's what I'm seeing, ladies. When I asked you that question, both of your faces lit up. Moya,
Mhm.
I would love to hear your thoughts. Did you have someone that strong in your life as well?
So strong, yes, but showing emotion, not a lot. My dad's Jamaican. And so his whole idea is work, 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 work. He is, you know, that Living Color skit is, man, if you don't got 10 jobs, man, you know, like that's him. So he didn't even have time for it. It was just very, very much so. What are you doing? How are you getting there? Do you need my help? Okay, this is what we're doing. Very much problem solver, but not so much like emotionally driven.
Very, very interesting. But your face also lit up. So do you see, men who are watching, you see how women also light up when we have stories to tell you that we do see that there are emotions in our family. And it may not always be tears, guys. Tears is not always the way, but we know when there is emotion behind the love that we're feeling around us. If you're just joining us, you're actually catching us at the tail end of our show today. But this is a very important topic, and I urge you to go back and watch the replay. You're watching Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We talk about some very good things about building our community of men and women. We talk about everything. Sometimes we talk politics, but we talk true life. And if you don't want to miss us, all you have to do is text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948. And also, guys, we want you to make sure that you go and visit our website. You can catch us over there at flynubianmoney.com. We have a lot of resources to help you get your money right and your money tight. So go on over there and look at those courses, download your resources, and take a good look at your financial house, because we don't only want you to be healthy and in your mind and your body and your spirit. We want you to be healthy financially as well. I want to address a couple of the comments that we have, ladies. Remember, I did pose a good question. Let's see if anybody answered those questions. Big Mac says men have to put in the work and get results in order to be called successful and highly respected. I actually agree with you, Big Mac, on that. But do you think that you have to hold back your emotions while doing that, or is it okay for you to share those? James McLaren says that's usually men who did not grow up with older men actively in their life and growing up. I'm sorry, I might have taken that one out of order, so I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. If you want to clarify, please put that in the comments. Lawrence Lamar says, you are mature women, but it's much worse for younger boys. This generation of young women only date men with a lot of money. These 2024 young ladies got all the game. Oh, Constance, you said what? So I want to see what you want to say on that one. I need you to come on. Give me your response.
Wait. Read that one again. Put that back up.
You are all mature women, but it's much worse for younger boys. This generation of young women only date men with a lot of money. These 2024 young ladies got all the game.
Is that right?
I don't think so.
All y'all little men are broke. All y'all little youngsters are broke. So who's trying to date people with money? Y'all ain't got no money. So I don't even understand that. What are y'all talking about?
I just had to go to you because you were so expressive.
Y'all broke. What are you talking about? Young women got all the game.
So Elle says, I agree. You got men that don't check each other and hold each other accountable. But by no means is it the magnitude of women not holding each other accountable. We have to be honest. Are we? Are we holding ourselves accountable? Let me tell you something else. Yes, sir. I do hold my sisters accountable. I do it all the time, but I also do it with love. And I actually agree with Constance. You know, you have to be in a group where not everyone is thinking like you all the time. You know, one of the main mastermind things that people talk about is you should never be in a group of people who all think alike all the time. And you should never always be the top person in the group, because you want to make sure that you are learning from others, but you also have to have those ears on to get the education and the advice that you need. And then Tara Williams says, accountability is everything. You are on such point, sisters. Yes. Terry Wilson says, two-faced people only do more harm than good. Well, yeah, because they got different agendas. Big Mac answered the question. He said, men in my circle hold each other accountable every day. I'm very glad to hear
real
that.
Men. I love that. I love that for you.
Real men. Yes, and Dr. Vibe says, I have a Black man in my life who holds me accountable in my good times and my not so good times. I am there for him in good and bad times. I'm blessed to have him. Isn't it wonderful to have a mentor like that in your life that can also share the good and the bad? Maxwell Jenkins says, when are men not held accountable? Maybe I'm hearing the message wrong. Thoughts on that? I would love to hear your thoughts on that, Moya. Do you feel that men are not being held accountable by each other?
I feel like men, so you said something, I think we've been talking about it. It depends upon the group that you're with. So if your group of men are, so there's the saying, right? Your net worth is dependent upon your 5 closest in your network. So it depends on who's in your group. If you have a group of, if someone said earlier, aspiring older men, then yeah, they're going to hold you accountable. But if you guys are all young, all doing the same thing, what are they going to hold you accountable for? And they're all doing the same thing. So it depends on who's in your group, and that's going to hold you accountable.
I agree. Depends on who your energy is focused around. Ladies, we have had such a wonderful conversation today. I feel like we've actually had great dialogue with our viewers as well, who we all appreciate. We love you being here because we know that you could take this hour and spend it anywhere else, but you decided to come and check in with us, and we see you. We know who's here every day, and we appreciate you so much and are grateful for you. So now we're going to move into the final part of our show, but we want you to make sure that you come back tomorrow and check us out at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ladies, do you feel, no, I'm not going to ask you a question. I want you to take a point from this that you remember the most. Share your final thought on that, and then please share with where we can find you. Let's start with you, Moya.
Final thought is really based upon that it's important to share your emotions just in the right setting. Like, that's what I believe. And so I'm Moya. You can find me at moya.business.
Love it. You got to head on over there. You hear how smart she is? You know she got her business on lock, and you need a tax professional because Uncle Sam, you need somebody to go to bat for you for Uncle Sam. Thanks, Moya. How about you, Dr. Alicia?
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking about all the men who are isolated and don't have other men to talk to hold them accountable. So I really think that just for all the men out there and women, that when people are trying to hold you accountable, we're not trying to shame you. So when you are bringing issues to someone, make sure you do it in a way that doesn't put them on a defense. Make sure you present it in a way that's really loving, because you never know the background of people, and it may be connected to a deep sense of shame and pain that they've experienced when they were younger. And if you're bringing things to their attention, they could just go back and then immediately get defensive. So just be sure that you're saying, these are my issues, make sure that you do it in a way that doesn't come across as what's wrong with you. Okay. So with that, you can find me at Coaching with Dr. Alicia. That's my website. I am taking clients right now. You can also follow me on Instagram at Coaching with Dr. Alicia.
And as you can see,
Yes.
Dr. Alicia has heart. You want to make sure that if you need that type of service, we all need it. We're talking about that today. Reach out to her because you know she's an expert in her field. Constance, I want to hear your final thoughts and where we can find you.
I think being challenged is extremely important. If you are not around people who challenge you, you need to find a new group of people. Challenges, people being accountable, because I think that's the operative word. I think that's the thing that stuck out most for us. If there's nobody in your circle that's holding you accountable, or if you're around people that are just agreeable to you, I think that leads to an issue, because where are you going to grow? How are you going to grow if everybody thinks like you? You have to surround yourself with people who are going to have different perspectives and different views. Moya said, your network is your net worth. So having that diverse group of people that are going to say, yo, you wrong, or listen, you were 100% right, or I agree with you, or girl, I'm going to pray for you, or brother, I'm going to pray for you, or, just having that moral support is extremely important, and is healthy for our growth. Otherwise, we are going to be stuck and stunted, and we don't want that. If I'm wrong, let me know I'm wrong, because I just want to be the best version of myself in every capacity in life. I just want to be the best me. So if I need to be corrected in some way, I'm open to constructive correction, like Dr. Alicia said. Help me. But don't hurt me. What you say, Lala? Don't hurt, help. If you can't help, hurt. If you what you be saying?
If you can't help, don't hurt.
If you can't help, don't hurt. But challenge me. I need that, because I just want to grow and be better. And I think that's what we all need. Men, women, everyone across the board. Help us to be better. Don't be so agreeable, because then we stay stuck and we stay stagnant and we stay stuck in our own mental, and we're held prisoner by our own mentality, because we don't know any better. So I think that's what we really need to take away from this conversation, is just getting around different opinions and making sure that we're challenged and our thoughts are challenged, so that we can be more intellectual in our decision making, in our life, we need that. Where can you find me? Everywhere. I am Constance Carter. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and on YouTube, and on podcasts and everything else. I am Constance Carter. I love y'all.
And she is Constance Carter, and she does a lot. So you make sure that you go and hook up with her, because she is hot to trot when it comes to real estate and money and really helping to build our communities. Guys, make sure that you check out all of these ladies on the panel. Before I give my final thoughts, I do want to address one comment, because I think it's important. And it says, women don't understand. Nobody cares about how men feel. Most emotional men come out of single parent homes. Most dads tell sons the truth. Tell them in life you're going to take the L's. I think, sir, that today we have shown you that you have at least 4 women who care very much about how our men feel and getting the support with them. I'm also willing to bet that there is even this times infinity when you find them. You're always going to hear the sad and bad stories, but there are more of us who care that don't care. And with that being said, my final thought is this. We are all body, mind, and spirit. We always have something that we're going through. You really cannot throw rocks at glass houses, because just because someone else is going through it and they're not acting the way that you would act doesn't mean that it's wrong or right. You need to show empathy and love to whoever it is. And like Constance says, you know what? She heard me say it and I live by it. If you can't help, don't hurt. That's a simple thing to do. You can keep your mouth shut when it needs to be shut. And with that being said, you can find me at bit.ly/Laura Key Info. I'm also an international real estate agent, so I can help you buy a home all over the United States as well as Portugal. That's where I specialize. So get your minds out of the box. Start seeing the world. It's a big, beautiful place out here. Finally, we want to say thank you. We thank you so much for being here with us today. We love that you come in and support us. We see you. Hi, Armando. Want to say hi to you too, because we love that you come in as well. Make sure that you tune in tomorrow, and you also go and subscribe to us on Spotify over there, Fly Nubian Money. Make sure you go to our website, flynubianmoney.com, get your free resources. But most of all, don't miss the show by text the word Queens, Queens, to 87948. That's a wrap for today, y'all. We look forward to seeing you on Friday. Y'all have a blessed day. We'll see you tomorrow.